This is Gemara and Pesachim Daf Kof Aleph. Tonight's year should be a schos for Shleim v'chaim Yisrael Moshe ben Esther Yiza Yudamir ben Yakir men ben Vega Chayim ben Sarar Shlomo Sivim Reizid Dol Sarar Bas Kanen Dol Itabasim Bas Chay Sarar Yisrael ben Mindol Eliezer Paretz ben Tishalei Shalom Bas Naomi Bas Shavfega Bashir Khan Fall Dover ben Yitri Bashmol ben Tila Dunya ben Chan Rezel Melchai Bas Mina Liba Bracha Bas Tovia Musa Dina Idol Bas Shina Mindol Shmuel Tovia Bas Avigal Fetch Asi ben Fega Dvaira Mechelis Yipar Nastateli Yehuva B'Seisha Chali Yisrael as well as the Chos Shir Kvatalea Bas Ita. Some more fabulous news. The Baruch Hashem Miriam Abbas Esther Shendel, who sponsored the daf a few weeks ago, and we continued and had her on the list of Zechusim. Baruch Hashem just found her Shidduch this past week. So Mitzvah Hashem, we should continue sharing good news and Simchais together. Let's pick it up from the bottom of Kof Amid Beis as we continue in Arvei Pesachim on our quest to finish Pesachim and learn Arvei Pesachim by the time Pesach comes in a few short weeks. Says the Gemara, we'll pick it up from 3 lines from the bottom, Kof Amid Beis, even though we started this in the last year, but now it's going to take us into today's year. As people that make Kiddush and Beis Knesses, that we mentioned, there was a long-standing minhag to make Kiddush Friday night in Shul, and many Shuls until this day do such. Amar Rav, Rav says, you're not yotzei your bracha on wine, you're yotzei your bracha on Kiddush. Seemingly what that means is that those that hear don't have to make Kiddush again, but of course they themselves cannot drink wine. Every Kiddush has 2 components, is the bracha on the wine, if you want to drink, and then there's doing yotzei the Kiddush, be Mekadosh Shabbos. Prashtas, a mitzvah daraisa on Friday night. So they're yotzei Kiddush, they weren't yotzei wine. The difference would be they can continue eating at home, but they can't actually have wine. And we'll see more in the Gemara. Shmuel Amar, and Shmuel says, we move along to Kav Aleph Amar Aleph, today's daf, Afi de Kiddush la yatsu, they're not even yotzei the din of Kiddush, not yotzei anything. Says the Gemara, now the Gemara explains, El Rav, according to Rav, like we just explained, they're yotzei their chiv of Kiddush, so they're allowed to go straight and eat. So why when they come home do they make Kiddush again in their house? Says the Gemara, to be yotzei everyone else, people who weren't in shul. That's the din of Rav. According to Shmuel, you're not yotzei wine, you're not yotzei Kiddush. Why are you making Kiddush in shul? Says the Gemara, Lafuke Archem Yidei Chayvasai, to be yotzei the gas, the Achlu V'Shasa V'Ganu Bekinishta. There used to be people, they would eat, they would sleep in the shul itself, so they would be the ones yotzei Kiddush. So when Shmuel said, you're not yotzei wine or Kiddush, it meant for everyone else. But those people who slept in the shul, they would be yotzei. So fundamental machlokes Rav and Shmuel. Again, according to Rav, what are they being yotzei? They're not yotzei. They're yotzei Kiddush, I'm sorry. And why do they make Kiddush again in their house for everyone else? According to Shmuel, they're not yotzei Kiddush. The only one that's going to be yotzei are the guests. Shmuel goes according to his reasoning. Again, Shmuel, it says that you are not yotzei Damar Shmuel in Kiddush ella b'makom suda. That there's only a din in Kiddush b'makom suda. There's only a din of Kiddush if you eat in the place that you make Kiddush. Before we continue, let's see an important Rashbam, because this is going to continue with us for the rest of the Amud. In Kiddush al Makom Suda, about 10 lines into the Rashbam says, again, the Rashbam is the bottom half over here, Rashi's the top, Rashbam, the grandson of Rashi, Vim Kiddush lo sayid b'isei makom. If they make Kiddush and they did not eat, Talmud of Rashi, if they make Kiddush, they did not eat in that place, lo yatsa yidei Kiddush. You're not yotzei Kiddush. Again, just to point out the very fundamental din of Kiddush Makom Suda. Much could be said on this, and maybe we'll give halacha share on the topic. But what does it mean, yidei Kiddush? Kiddush Makom Suda means, for example, Shabbos day, if you go and you're a Kiddush but you don't have a Suda means bread, Suda means mizaynais, you weren't even yotzei Kiddush, and you would have to make Kiddush again, and of course, the food that you eat would not be allowed. Just to mention, there is a shita of Ramosha Weinstein, the Gris Moshe, that he says, it's 2 different dinim, and you could theoretically eat Shabbos day without, hear Kiddush Shabbos day and not have mizaynais. Generally, most people are machmir, that whenever they hear Kiddush on Shabbos day, they have a mizaynais, but again, maybe we'll give a separate shir on the topic. So one more time, what does Shmuel say? Shmuel says, in Kiddush ella b'makom suda, and therefore since you're not eating in the shul, you're not yotzei. Savar mina, says the Gemara, hani mili bin bayis labais. Says the Gemara, when is there a din that you need to eat in the place? The Gemara thinks right now if you're transferring from one house to another house. Avol mi makom the makom bechad beis aloi. But let's say you move from room to room within one house, it's not a problem. You can make Kiddush in your dining room and eat in your living room. We would say this din in front of Shmuel, and he would go from the roof to the ground, and then you would make Kiddush, a bunch of stories right now, and that is the reason why, because we're saying that he held that you need to be Yosei Kiddush b'makayim suda. As Rashi here says, Hani Mili, the Rashbam, I'm sorry, Din Kiddush el makam suda, el mi bayis bayis, el makam makam, bay mi bayis la'aliyah, that was the case we just had, ein tzarich lachzer lekadish. So again, going from room to room is okay, going from house to house is not okay. Says the Gemara, Vav Ravuna savar in Kiddush makam suda, Ravuna holds the same din, the Ravuna Kaddish is akar leisharga. Ravuna made Kiddush and his candle went out. Vayale lamane lebei ganani derabba brei, and he went to go eat by the canopy in the house of Rabbi his son. Says the Gemara, as the Rashbam points out, the Beis Chuppah, like the canopy, he had a candle, the Kaddish, and he made Kiddush again, and then he ate, Alma Kasavar and Kiddush Al Makam Suda. Again, very clear. He made Kiddush in place A. He had no light, he couldn't eat there. So he went to eat by his son's house. He made Kiddush again, because the din of Kiddush is again on Friday night, everyone agrees. You cannot hear Kiddush without eating challah mezainos. He didn't, he made it again in his son's house. Vav Rabba, opinion number 3, Saving Kiddush Makam Suda. When we be by the house of Abaye, we would make Kiddush. He would say, quickly, eat something. Why? When you go to the place that you're eating, maybe you're not going to have a candle, and they would not be able to make Kiddush on the place that you're eating. Again, he said, eat something here. Why? Because maybe when you go home, you're not going to have a light, and you're not going to be able to eat. So what do I have to eat? And he explains, and you're not Yotze Kiddush over here. Why? So again, Abaye, Ravuna, Rabba, Shmuel, all holding Ein Kiddush Ela b'Makom Suda, such an important din, that the only way to be Yotze Kiddush is eating a Suda afterwards. Again, Lechatchila Suda, let's say the Gain, is you have to have Challah, which is the reason that many people, even if they go to a Kiddush, they make Kiddush again in their house before they start the meal to be makbid on the din of the Gain, which is to always have a Suda of bread, but definitely at least one has to have a Kizayis, Kebeya, of mizainis, and that would be to yotz this din of Kiddush and Makom Sudan. Again, one last time, that means if you're in shul and you hear Kiddush, you can't just hear Kiddush and have a potato kugel. You have to eat a mizainis in order to be yotz to the din of Kiddush b'Makom Suda. Without the Suda, the Kiddush was not effective. Says the Gemara, Eini, is this last din true? Abaye said, Rabba, Mar, which is Rabba, he always did like Rav. Levar me'ani tilas David Kishmul. Aside for 3 things he did like Shmuel. Abaye was in the last story, and Abaye seemingly held in Kiddush Al Makom Suda like Shmuel. Ask the Gemara 1 second. Abaye taught us that Rabba only did 3 things like Shmuel, and everything else he did like Rav. So why is Abaye now telling us that Rabba did like Shmuel in this din? This is not one of the 3. As the Gemara explains, what were the 3? Matir lebeged, you're allowed to take tzitzis from one beged to the next. Manik l'ner. When it comes to lighting candles, you're allowed to, on the Ner Chanukah, you're allowed to light 1 candle from the next, and you don't have to light an intermediary. Like we've seen extensively in the Gemara and Shabbos, by dragging down your Shimon, you're allowed to drag a bed, a chair, or a bench, so you don't have kavanah to make the charitz. The fact that the ditch happens inevitably, we're not concerned with. That is the din of Shmuel, that is the din of Rav Shimon, of Sikresha. Davar she'ein miskavein is going to be mutter. So ask the Gemara, you Abaye just said that Rabba did what? Tzeld of Kiddush Makom Suda, you need to have the din. But he only held 3 places like Shmuel, not in this place. Answers the Gemara, that whole statement, important rule, that Rabba went with Rav everywhere, aside from those 3, that's only in the Chumras, but not by the Kulas, and therefore in this case, will come out of Kula to like Rav, and therefore he's machmer like Shmuel, the din of Kiddush b'Makom Suda. Says the Gemara of Rav Yochanan Amar. Now this Rav Yochanan, very important, is a 3rd shita going back to what we started off today with. We started off today with the machlekes Rav and Shmuel, what is the status of Kiddush in Shul. Rav said the status of Kiddush in Shul is that you're Yotze Kiddush and not wine. Shmuel said you're Yotze neither. V'Rav Yochanan Amar, Afidei Yayin Nami Yatzu, you're Yotze everything. You can have Kiddush in Shul, go home and eat, and even have a gafen without making a bracha, you have wine. Says Rav Yochanan, whether you change the wine As we move along to Kaval from a base, or whether you change the place that you're eating, Rav Yochanan holds there's no issue of Shinei Makim. Even if you go from place A to place B, you're allowed to continue eating, and therefore Rav Yochanan is of the opinion. If you're a Kiddush in Shul, you do not have to be concerned. You let it go home and continue and start your meal right away without Kiddush, number one. And number two, you can even drink wine. So a third opinion to our machlekes, we have now Rav Shmuel and Rav Yochanan. Comes in the Gemara. Meisvei. Says the Gemara, the top line, Kaval B'M Beis, Shinei Makim Sarach Levarich, Shinei Yain Ein Sarach Levarich, Tiyofta the Rav Yochanan, Tiyofta, Upper Ferish Abraisa, explicitly says you change places, you have to make a new bracha. Tiyofta, Rav Yochanan is out. Good question, Rav Yochanan. Just to point out, Shinei Yain Ein Sarach Levarich, this is referring to the din of making a new hagafen. If you have wine A and then wine B, you do not have to have a new hagafen. However, the Rashbam and Amar Aleph on the bottom points out, this is not in regards to the din of Atayvu Meitiv. You would have to make a din of Atayvu Meitiv on the second wine again if you fulfill the conditions of Atayv Veha Meitiv. Says the Gemara, Yosef Rav Idi Baravi Kamei Rav Chista. Yosef Rav Chista Kamei Rav Huna. Ha Damrit Shini Makam Zar Levarich. When do we hold that you have to make a new bracha when you change places? Lo Shanu Elami Bayis LeBayis. You go from house A to house B. Avol Mi Makim LeMakim Lai. If you change rooms, you do not have to make a new bracha. Amalei Rav Idi Baravi Nachi Tanino LeMastin. We learned in a brayso. Devei Rav Hinik, Varmelav Masid, Devei Rav Hinik Kavasech, like you. Vela Ravuna Masnita Kamashmon. If there's a Beferish Mishnah, Rav Huna is coming to teach us a Mishnah. They have to make a new bracha in Shinei Makim. When you change your place, I'm sorry, Shinei from house to house, but not from place to place. Says the Gemara, Rav Huna Masnita Lo Shmiele. He didn't hear this brayso, and that's why he said the din. But again, the din being, if you change houses, you make a new bracha. If you change rooms, you do not make a new bracha. Now we're going to get into the dinim of Shinoi Makim. Says the Gemara, said over in his own name, such important rules. When you have to make a new bracha, again, which we just defined, meaning going from house to house, which basically means you leave your house, you go from one area to the next. Items that do not require a bracha after them in their appropriate places. We'll define that in 1 minute, which is basically referring to shahakol, ha'etz, and hadama. The items which do not have a bracha chashuva. Avol, devarim atu'unim bracha achrein the mekaimim. Items that you have to make a bracha achreina, the after bracha, the al-michya, and the benching, you have to make it in the place that you ate it. Ein sarich levarich, that is impervious to Shinei Makim, and you would not have to make a new bracha if you change places. My taima lekiva kama hadar, because you're always drawn back to your original place. Let's just explain this for 1 minute. Let's explain. First, let's just finish. This din is very important because this is the halacha l'maisa. If you change from place A to place B with regard to mizaynais and hamaitzi, you do not make a new bracha. With regard to shahakol, eitz, and adama, you make a new bracha. A very simple case: you're sitting and eating, sitting here and having a drink. If I were to walk outside to my car, if I was to walk to the next door house, I would have to make a new shahakol on that drink. Whereas if I'm in the middle of my meal and I have a hamaitzi or I have a mizaynais and I walk to the neighboring house, I do not have to make a new bracha. What is the reason? Because since whenever you have a mizaynais and a hamaitzi, which are items again, ta'un bracha achrein l'mekayim, they need to make the bracha achrein in their original place. I have to lechatchila come back here to make the bracha achreina because this is my area. So when I leave this area, I'm still in the middle of the bracha at some level because I have to come back here to make a bracha achreina. Therefore, if I eat in the second place, I don't need a new bracha Rishaina, I'm allowed to keep on eating without a new hamaitzi or a mezainis. However, if I'm having a drink here, do I have to come back here to make a brain nefashis? No. So if I have a new shahakal in the second place, I have to make a new bracha. Such an important thing. Unfortunately, many people don't know. Shinoi makim. If you change bibayis labayis, you go from area A to area B, you go from your house to your neighbor's house, then you have to make a new bracha rishaina of shahakal eitz adama. However, if you're having mezainis hamaitzi, you do not. Just to point out one more thing that's brought out in the Mishnah Berurah, that if with regard to bracha achroina, it's not necessarily the same dinim. Meaning, it is the same din, just a bit counterintuitive. If I have a sha'akal here, I'm supposed to make a brain nefashis here. Let's say I forget, and I went to place B. The halacha is, I'm allowed to make a brain nefashis there. It's true. The bracha rishayna, I would not be allowed, I would need a new one. If I had another drink there, I would need a new sha'akal. However, if I forgot to make my bracha achrayna, my brain nefashis within the amount of time I'm allowed to make a brain nefashis, then you can make it in place number 2. Whereas, that's across the board. So again, one last time, and then we'll finish up the daf for today. Very important rules we're seeing over here. When it comes to sha'akal eis adama, you go from place A to place B, bayis to bayis, house to house. New bracha rishayna. You're not allowed to eat anymore unless you make a new bracha. Bracha achrayna you're allowed to make. When it comes to mezainis ha'moitzi, from place A to place B, you're still allowed to keep on eating. And obviously, if you eat in the second place, let's say a Concise, to make it simple, then you'll be even allowed to bench in the second place. Obviously, none of this is l'chatchila, the Mishnah Berurah based on the Ramah in Kofayin Ches says. You're always supposed to eat in one place and make your bracha achrayna where you eat. Says the Gemara Meisvei, b'nei chabur Hashem esuvin l'shtois, v'akragleim leitzis likros chasan likros kala. They're having a party, and they hear the chassan and kala are coming, so they get up, and they all walk outside to greet the chassan and kala. When they leave, ain't tuna bracha lemafreya. They don't have to make a bracha back on what they ate. However, ain't tuna bracha lechatchila. When they come back, they don't have to make a new bracha. What does it sound like? It sounds like even though there was a shinui makim, they left their place, they do not need to make a new bracha. Says the Gemara, that's only if they left behind someone sitting at the table, an elderly person or a not well person. If they didn't leave someone there, when they leave, they have to make a bracha. They have to make a new bracha rishayna. Says the Gemara, Midiktani akru ragleim, for the fact that it said that they got up. Mechlal, what did we infer from there? It sounds like they're in the middle of a meal. They had to uproot something. Sounds like they're in the middle of eating items that need a bracha. What's that? That's mezainis and amaitzi. And therefore, what do we see in the Bryce? Again, they're in the middle of a mezainis amaitzi meal. And the Bryce said the chassan and kala are coming. They get up to greet them. V'time, or the reason was because they left someone at the table, a very important rule. If someone stays behind at the table, then you don't need to make a new bracha. If you don't leave someone at the table, then says the Gemara, it's a question of Rav Chisda. Because what did Rav Chisda teach us? Rav Chisda taught us that you don't need to make a new bracha. Because you're tied back to original place, like the example we said. If I have mezainis hamaitzi and I go to place number 2, I do not need to make a new bracha. What's going on? The Brisa seemingly says not the way. The Brisa says only if you leave someone behind at the table, you don't have to make a new bracha. But if not, you do. Which, by the way, is a very important rule. Anytime you leave but someone is left at the table, that automatically means you're still in the middle of the meal and you're never going to have to make a new bracha. Answers the Gemara, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, moving along to Kaf Beis Amud Aleph. Man Tana Akirais, who is the Tana that discussed that previous price of getting up? Rabbi Yehuda, the Tanya learned in the price. They're sitting and eating and they get up to go to shul or davin. That's the Tana Kama, and that fits with Rav Chisda. The Rav Chisda held when you're having mezainis hamaitzi items, you don't have to make a new bracha. That's only if you leave some people behind. Then you need to make a new bracha. And as much as it really continues, we're going to stop for here for today, and we'll pick up from here tomorrow.